Love Robinson, and this is Kathy Parks. We're retired family and consumer sciences teachers and FCCLA advisors, and we both serve on the OAA Board of Directors, and we both have a passion for STAR events. So we've been asked to tell you a little bit about STAR events. Between the two of us, we've attended 26 national FCCLA meetings, and 99% of the time, we had competitors at those events. We believe STAR events are the best way to reinforce your curriculum. There are lots of ways to incorporate them. A lot of people seem to think that that's difficult to do, but the curriculum matches up really well with the STAR event competitions. For example, if you are doing anything as a first-year teacher to introduce new member facts and an FCCLA recruitment, then you should enter the new member facts competition, enter students in the new member facts competition or creed speaking and interpretation. They're a great way to get publicity for your chapter and for the students who participate. Students incorporate a multitude of skills through STAR events, and they also give your students a chance to show the types of things that students are learning through the FACTS program. When starting out, choose just one or two STAR events, and don't feel like you have to do everything all at once. Incorporate them as you go.
Steps for developing a successful STAR event project. You need to read and reread the rules for the contest. It's very important that you're always up on every rule that you have to go by when you're developing your projects. Also, concentrate on an evaluation rubric because that's how the judges will judge your projects. They will look at that rubric and they will read it and they will judge and give you points according to how that rubric states. Also, you need to receive the maximum points. So you need to see and read exactly how to do that project so that you receive those maximum points that you need.
Although the rules are very important, we fully believe that the rubric is what you need to focus on. Have the students read through the rubric and highlight things that they know are important. And again, one thing Kathy and I would both tell you is have your students read the rules as well as you, because inevitably a teacher will miss a point or a student will miss a point. So you need to have at least two people read through that rubric to be sure that you've hit everything that there is to do. And if it's a team, the team members need to read all the rules and the rubrics themselves. Pay attention to points to deductions that are on the evaluation, the summary page, because again, those points can't be given to the students if they are missing components. Look what needs to be included to get the maximum number of points. Find out what page limitations are, time limits. Make sure that you pay really close attention to those things. Kathy and I both served as STAR event judges at the district, regional, state, and national levels, and we can tell you the most discouraging thing that we've ever experienced as judges is to have someone that has an outstanding project, an outstanding presentation, but they fail to include all the required things. Using the rubric, we can't give them points for things that they don't have. So you have no options as a judge but to deduct those points, and that really hurts the kids. And we want them to do the best that they possibly can. Judges always want the students to excel. Stay current with STAR events. Don't just rely on your memory or somebody else's memory. You need to check the national website to see if there are any updates to the particular program that or project that you're competing in. Use resources when there's a questions. Don't hesitate to contact your state advisor to check the national website and the state website. Don't take any chances. Stay current and use those resources to get clarification on things.
Okay, the next thing that we're going to talk about is the FCCLA planning process. It's very important that you schedule and work your project around the planning process, and it makes it so much easier once you do this. It must include, for all events, this planning process. Number one, identify concerns. Begin with statistics that support the concern and build projects that fit the concern and relate to the curriculum that you're wanting to teach or to present. Also, set a goal. That's your next step. Be sure the goal links to the program, to the concern. Set a specific measurable goal and tie it into facts and national programs because it's very important that the judges see that you're tying this into the national programs because that's very important to them. Also, the next step is to form a plan. decide who, what, when, where, and how this project should be accomplished. Now, how we did it is we would put who, and we'd state who, or what, and we'd state what. It just makes it a lot more simple for the judges to understand where you're coming from when you're deciding or forming a plan. Next, you're going to act, and you're going to completely detail everything that you did in your project in this part of the planning process. And finally, follow up. Evaluate the success of the project using a pre and post survey. So you're going to have the survey before your project, and you're going to also administer a survey after the project so that you can see how many kids or people or whoever you're trying to reach, how many you reached, how their ideas or opinions changed. And another very important thing is to constantly publicize. If you have a newspaper in your hometown or Facebook, radio stations, publicize what you're doing so that it's very good PR for your chapter, number one, and it also shows the judges that you were really passionate about the project and wanting to get the word out about whatever the circumstance is in your project.
Your event will, the students' event will probably include a portfolio or a display. We're going to talk a little bit about portfolios. One of the things you need to be sure about with the portfolios is that you're using an official FCCLA binder. And Kathy brought some binders with us today so she can show you. The portfolios, all of these portfolios are in an official binder. It helps to choose a theme to make the portfolio look professional. Be sure that you pay attention to the portfolio rules as far as page numbers and the dimension and the content of the portfolio. All pages have to fit within the dimensions of the portfolio, and that includes the tabs. So that is why it's so important to use a current portfolio. Page numbering and division tabs really help out. Students can actually find it easier when they're using their portfolio in a presentation if they have those tabs and can go to those. Be sure you pay attention to the rules about only using one side of the pages. If you put something on the back side of a page, the judges will look at that, but they can only use so many pages, and that counts as 2 pages, so they might not get to the end of your portfolio if you printed things on the front and the back. Page numbering and tabs, like I said, really help out. One of the things Kathy and I really feel are important is that you use non-glare portfolio pages. A lot of the judges are, unfortunately, older, like I am, and non-glare pages definitely make it a lot easier for them to read what's in the material. Pay attention to any restrictions. If you choose, your students can also use an electronic portfolio. Personally, Kathy and I are not big fans of the electronic portfolios, but a lot of our students love them. And this is a student's project, so you should go with what your students prefer. As a whole, we'll tell you that judges aren't a big fan of electronic portfolios either because a lot of them don't have the technological skills that they need to operate the portfolio as easily as they should. It's harder for the judges to go back with an electronic portfolio. Plus, it also creates a few problems for the students. Sometimes you need to be sure that you bring a fully charged laptop or iPad, whatever you're using, because you may not have access to that. You will probably not have access to internet, so the students need to be sure that they can operate their electronic portfolio without relying on that. The maximum number of slides will vary from event to event, so again, you need to be sure that the students check those rules and know exactly how many slides that they can have. Once you submit an entry and you choose electronic or hardcover portfolio, you cannot change that, so be sure you know exactly which one the student wants to use. The big thing that we've run into with portfolios during presentations, a lot of the students fail to use their portfolio during the presentation. The students must use the portfolio during the presentation. If they do not use the portfolio, they will lose a lot of points, and sometimes students that probably have the best project and probably did the best presentation but didn't use their portfolio will not place first or second and go on. So you want to be sure that the student knows they have to use their portfolios. Refer to the rubrics for specific project details, and be sure you have somebody else proofread and check the spelling of the things in the portfolio. And that goes true for whether it's electronic or for a hard copy, and again, with the displays as well.
All right, we have several displays that we probably can show you. One thing about displays, it's very important that they look very professional. That means good quality images. Like if you've taken pictures, make sure that we can see the picture. Make sure it's neatly laid out and colorful, and you stick to the topic. There's an example right there that Donna's showing you. Make sure it's easy to follow. Like the headings are used to organize the information. If you know, just make sure that that we understand what you were trying to tell the judges or tell the public whenever you do this. A good idea is to put where you have your articles, for example, use media, or wherever you had your public service announcement, just put PSA right there so that they understand that's what you were doing in that time. Okay, so the general layout usually is to put in the center of the board the title, which on most of these you just have the banner at the top, or the headboard at the top, which has your name of the project. And then just organize it in a way that when the judges are looking for certain things, when they're using their rubric, or that they can just point it out quickly, and because they don't have a lot of time to judge anyway, so you're going to have to make it so it's very easily, it flows easily, and they understand where everything is on the board.
Some of the projects, whether it's a portfolio or a display, you may be able to use visuals in addition to that particular thing. Some events give students the option of having a visual as well as a portfolio. For example, this particular competitive event, the portfolio was required, but the display board was not. If you have the options, we suggest that you definitely go ahead and use the visuals that go along with that. Check the rules to be sure if you can have a visual. Again, be sure you check to make sure all words are spelled correctly and that several people proofread it. The visual must be used during the presentation. You can't just have it sitting there. The student actually needs to refer to that visual. Although these aren't required, we have found that a lot of judges kind of expect that visual to be there, so it's a good idea to include it.
And they can also, you know, when they're using, even though the display board may not have been part of the actual rubric, if the kids are going to point to things on their display board, the judges like that too, so that they understand where they're coming from and what they did. Okay, when it comes down to oral presentation tips, a really good way to start their presentation is to attention grab something that will catch those judges' attention right away. A story, a personal experience, anything that's going to go, wow, I want to listen to more of this. Incorporate the planning process in your speech. Make sure that you're always acting and you have every single step in all of the planning process so that they understand that you've used that intensely. Organize the speech according to the rubric categories. It's very easy when they're judging, if you've got it in that order, to help them judge. Again, I will say, they don't have a lot of time to judge, so it's going to be very easy for them to just check as they go, especially if you've got that in your speech in that order. And also, at the conclusion, tie in what you started your speech with to the end, so that it all sums up what you've done and your project, and they can see all the great ideas the kids have had and the great experiences that they've had during that time. And practice, practice, practice. It's very important that your kids know it early on and they practice. They practice early and often. They go through the presentation at least twice a day. They enlist a wide variety of audiences. Have a lunch at school and invite your teachers to listen to them do their presentation, because it's very good practice for them to do it in front of others so that they can kind of get the nervous jitters out and just really know that speech well. Encourage students to practice in front of a mirror. When I was doing it, I would say, hey, you need to look in front of a mirror, and if you think you look like you're doing a good job, that's probably how you're looking to others. So if you're very monotone and you don't have a lot of expression, you're not using your hands as much, that probably may be something you need to work on. So it's really good practice to do it in front of a mirror. And video the student. If someone would video the student, that would help them kind of see their flaws or where they need to improve during their speech.
And I would add to that, the presentation, that's also a good way to get publicity for your students and for the project they're doing. Ask your superintendent or your principal to listen to the students do their presentation, because a lot of times those administrators need to know what you're doing in the classroom and what STAR events are about, and that's a good way to introduce them to that if they're not familiar with it. For some reason, people think Kathy and I have some insider tips that helped us to win STAR events, and we'll be honest with you, there's not really any secret insider tips. There are some things, though, that we've learned through our times in presenting, having our students present STAR events. First and foremost, the students need to know the national programs and the FCCLA purposes. Those should all be tied into your projects, your students' projects and presentations, because a lot of times a judge will ask a question about how this ties to that thing, and it's really beneficial if they know the national programs and if they can tie a national program to the project that they're doing. Also, if they can tie a purpose, an FCCLA purpose, at least one, if not more, into the purposes. The new advisor's handbook will help you find the particular programs, and it also even has suggestions for how you can tie those into the curriculum, because almost everything, as far as I'm concerned, everything that is a national program easily can cross into your curriculum, and you don't have to do something special or different to encourage kids to participate in STAR events, because if they're doing a career investigation, it ties right into a career investigation project, or job interview. So it's always important to try to connect those together in any way, shape, or form that you can. Not every student has to participate in a STAR event at the district, state, or national level, but they can all participate in a STAR event at the local level. Utilize media personalities for judges to get exposure for chapter projects. I found that in a small rural area, that if I could get a judge from the newspaper or from the radio station to come out and watch a project, that was a good way for me to get publicity.
Get rid of the note cards. Don't use the note cards, because it's just a distraction, and those kids need to prove that they've done the project and they've done everything possible to make their project worthwhile. In portfolios, highlight any rubric topics so judges can quickly locate information. And I can show you probably in this one. Let me see if I can flip to it. Okay, right here. In the rubric, it says target audience profile. This was advocacy. And so the kids, would highlight every heading so that all they had to do was look, okay, did they have this? Yes, they do. And then they decide how many points they could get for that one. Also, consider student personalities when organizing teams. Make sure that they click, that they get along, that they work well together. If there's a personality conflict, I wouldn't suggest doing that. Some kids, when I was teaching, some would just choose to do it by themselves because they felt they worked better individually, which was fine with me. It's just their preference and how they want to do it. Over the years, kids would ask me tell me what STAR event they wanted to do the year before the next year, because we had been very successful and they were very excited about competing again, and they wanted to get in on it first, so that was their choice. I said yes, and a lot of times it was the officers, because a lot of times they were expected to do it as officers, so I let them choose first, usually. Recycle non-placing projects. Sometimes you can use those projects in other STAR events. If you didn't place in, for example, focus on children, you could do chapter service project, display project in the next one. So you can recycle those and go into another STAR event, and maybe they will win that time. I had several kids that would do that, and they ended up winning and getting to go to nationals because of it.
Well, I was thinking like illustrated talk, but that's not the name of it anymore.
Yeah.
Professional presentations.
Yes.
If a student has a professional presentation project and they don't place it district, they can continue that particular project and expand it and go on to regional and probably enter in a different category. So when we say recycle a project, we're talking about during the same school year.
Right.
That makes it a lot easier to continue with something that's successful and maybe make a few tweaks to it to make it work the way you want it to. I think that's about all we have to tell you about
I think there was
STAR.
one thing I remembered. Make sure that you look at I think it's still called this National Facts Standards. Tie them into your STAR events, because that is also showing that what you're teaching in the classroom, you're incorporating into the STAR event. I think it's really important to add those to your STAR events, and then the judges can see, oh yeah, we are incorporating all this together, and we're teaching some awesome life skills to these kids.
Thank you.
Thank you.